Hi, my name is Sam Led, and welcome to The Fearless Now. This is for you, and you in the nosebleed seats. If you're looking for an easier way to approach anxiety, stress, and unhealthy habits from the inside out, there's no techniques and no strategies. So sit back, relax, and let me be your peace of mind Uber driver here on The Fearless Now. Hi, my name is Sam Led. I'm a transformational coach, and I'm looking at my algorithm. Actually, someone asked me how many downloads I'm getting every month, Rachel, and I actually have a very special guest here. And looks like we're like breaking 1,500 downloads a week, which is like ridiculous, right?
Amazing.
I mean, I barely know how the can opener works. So understanding how a podcast works in terms of marketing, it's not my wagon wheel. What do they call it? Wagon wheel. It's not in my portfolio. Cup of tea. Right. No, that's
I'm going to come in with the Irishism straight off the bat.
It's okay. I rather hear the Irishisms than the Englishisms. And so I have Rachel Francis here, and I just feel really honored to have this very gifted young woman here all the way across the pond and then up north a little bit in Cork, West Cork or Cork, Ireland?
East Cork. Very, very important. East.
It's very important. Yes. That's right. Your geography in Ireland I got to be careful here.
I know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She's in East Cork, Ireland. And we talked about a month ago. We just met in the internet ethers, and we just connected. And I'm really, really, I admire her work, her approach, her patience, and how present you are, Rachel. Present you are with me, but also with your clients, I'm sure. And talking about presence, Rachel, what came up for me this morning is how things can drop us into the present moment if we pay attention. And the other week, my partner and I were watching this show on Netflix, some silly show, and I was just caught up in my head, thinking about the next week, what I have to do, just the hamster wheel spinning up in the brain. And in this show we were watching was really kind of violent, but fun. It was like a kind of like a Goonies, but a little bit more adult, like on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I mean, I'm watching all this violence, and I'm in my head to begin with, so I'm not really present and paying attention. And this great Morrissey song comes on, and the main characters just are dancing, just randomly. And all of a sudden, whoop! I'm in the present moment. I'm out of my head. I'm out of the matrix. And I realized that we forget how rich our experience is and how much of a gift it is when we're present and in the state of flow. It could be just watching a Netflix show or listening to your favorite song or having great cognitive reverie with a new guest.
Yeah. Like I completely agree. And I think moments like that make you realize how much we live in the story of what's going on and not actually what's going on. You know what I mean? Because for you there in that example, it was almost like you could have been living in multiple experiences in that one moment, because you might have one thought stream going in your mind, and then that crosses over into another, which crosses over into, oh, and this happened last month, and my neighbor said this to me last week, and everything gets very messy and tangled up in our minds. And it is hard to distinguish sometimes, okay, what am I paying attention to here? Where is my focus? Where am I in general? Because the truth of the matter is, what you give your awareness to is your truth, really.
Amen. 100%.
And when you can actually have awareness around your awareness, so you get that?
Yes. Awareness around my awareness. I think you're about to create some song lyrics there for your first album.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but it's having that focus in terms of, okay, I'm giving a lot of my energy to this thought pattern or this kind of, I don't know, this old memory or something like that. I'm not in the present moment where I should be, because the truth is the present moment. The truth isn't the story. The truth isn't the kind of the mental chatter that is constantly running like a program all of the time. And I think a lot of our freedom is in the present moment, not in the story. Even if the story feels good to us, it's still a bit of a fabrication, all in all. What do you think about that?
Oh, I love what you just said there. And a lot of it we all can relate to. And it's funny because, I'm in Santa Barbara, California, which is 100 miles from Hollywood. And when we realized,
beautiful.
Well, you're talking about the story and drama and fabrication, some of the greatest screenwriters of all time are 100 miles from here, sitting in a coffee shop in Venice, right? Or Culver City or wherever in LA, writing this narrative. But what came up for me when you were sharing that is like our brain is the greatest screenwriter. Like when we're caught up in it, we all innocently sometimes take that bait. And I think, and I know our job as coaches and as change agents, that's such a like a Burning Man, like, esoteric term. And I love it, but it's to point out to our clients who are suffering in their thinking, who are looking to their outside circumstances that may not look great right now as the sum total of their experience and state of mind, thinking that like that's causing them to get caught up. Whereas is it's really only indication is how far they've stretched their intellect to try to figure out how to make something better in their outside world, where they've basically just kind of gotten to the end of their intellect, and then the brain's saying, wait, you're zooming in too much. Time to take the foot off. Yeah. Take the foot off the gas and come back down. This is no place to be in your head. And we all, we all sometimes forget and start to believe this chaotic thinking in the moment.
Yeah. Like living in the ego, I think. Living in the ego, it'll never bring you home to yourself.
Yeah.
It'll just send you out on errands across town and it'll have you running riot. But I love what you're saying here, because I think this really relates to what I do, like the type of coaching that I do, which is coaching my clients on embodiment practice. So really remembering who you are beyond any mental programming that you picked up from like social conditioning, things, ideas that you picked up from your environment, from your friends, from your family, that you now identify with because you carried in your system. You've carried it in your system for so long. And, like I think what you're saying as well, like it's kind of like having those thoughts running away with us. The reason those thoughts are so powerful is because we have an emotional response to them. And by having that emotional response, we identify with it. And I think that's the trouble, because when you're identifying with something, you're telling yourself that is me. So if you're feeling bad about something, I'm feeling bad. I am that thing which I'm associating with feeling bad. And you're instantly bringing that negative energy in on top of you when really there's no need.
Exactly. And that's so apropos to our human interactions when we finally see, especially in relationship dynamics. And I'm sure you've worked with clients that are having problems with their partner or their family member, and they're caught up in the I hate them. Look what they said to me. I'm stuck on like how mean they are or how whatever they are. I always say, hey, you know what? Wait a couple hours and then come back and let's discuss that again, because I bet you there's be some new thinking moving through and that will settle. We think that our state of mind has something to do with what someone said to us. And I got caught up in that a couple of weeks ago. I met my uncle. He's a businessman, and he was going to give me some advice. And he just unloaded on me, and I was caught off guard. And the whole day, I was really upset and angry. And I didn't know. I was upset because I was upset, right? And I started thinking and having just dark and upset thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh my God, I just took the bait again. Like my uncle's anger, frustration, criticism had absolutely nothing to do with me at all. Even if there were things I could improve on in business or whatever it was at the moment. Right.
Yeah.
And when we see that, I mean, it's so powerful because we can choose to have a richer, more present, more feel good, enjoyable experience in moment to moments, and from one moment to the next in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our job as a coach is to kind of redirect our clients back to who and what they are when they get caught. You know, they're lost in the pasture. You know, they're stuck on the freeway in traffic in their mind. And that's all. We're kind of like a pattern interrupter, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have that conditioning. You know, you're from Ireland. I'm from Southern California and from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. Yet the common thread that binds all of us together is that gift of presence. That once we get present, we write our greatest book. We fall in love. Yeah. We meet interesting and talented coaches 7,000 miles away, you know?
Yeah, I think, it is amazing because once you get connected, you get aligned, you get aligned to who you are truly being. And I think once you are in your true essence of being, that's when life smiles back at you. That's just the natural order of things. And maybe we don't fully understand that as much as we, there's science behind and all the rest of it. And we know these things, but it is the natural order of things. And yeah, I think it's so wonderful for you to even share that story about you and your uncle and things, because even as coaches, it still happens to us. It's such a, it's unfortunately, maybe it is the natural response that we can have when we're interrupted with change, unexpected change, even emotional change. It hits us maybe in ways we didn't expect. And as coaches, we can be extra tough on ourselves because we have to live by example. We hold ourselves up to that standard because, you are what you preach. But it does happen. But I think, again, you have that awareness to interrupt the pattern, like you said. And if the more you do that, the more you practice it, it becomes quicker and more efficient, and you can restabilize yourself a lot faster.
So what I heard in that, and I'm just smiling because that's everything that as coaches, especially a transformational coach, you can call me peanut butter and jelly coach. It doesn't really matter. As kind of being that shepherd, guiding my clients back to their present moment. And again, that can look like just laughing and telling a joke, sharing a joke with them. I mean, I've had plenty of coaching sessions with clients where we absolutely talk nothing about the elephant and the proverbial made up elephant that they've created in their mind in the room, even if they're having financial problems and their dog is sick and their girlfriend, broke up with them, or outside stuff that feels real because we feel our thinking. We, our psychological experience of this matrix in our brain, our mind, it's just a machine, it's that think, feel cycle. But once they see that spin cycle is exactly what it is. It's a ongoing narrative created by a computer that is only as good as the person or the being behind the controls. That we truly have agency over our locus of control without forcing it, so not resisting our anxiety, letting anxiety move through us, not resisting our anger and try to push it down and being, nice little boys and girls sitting in our cubicle at work, but expressing it in a way that is healthy, but at the same time allows that natural energy that we don't create, we have no agency over. And I believe that in the understanding that I share of the three principles, that, it's an inside out experience and an outside in experience, that we don't create our thoughts. these are algorithms moving through us. This is energy moving through us. And once we see that too, it's so liberating. So what came up for me with what you just said before I went off in that tangent was whatever it takes to get to hold your client's hand in that moment, and not with any kind of modality or reflective listening or any kind of special technique. Just get them into a regular conversation that it's not a distraction, but is kind of increasing or facilitating that experience of getting present. And the more they see that, like, I remember my father, when I had a bad day at school when I was a little kid, or when I got injured and I was playing tennis on the tennis team, or whatever it was, he would talk about cars or something, right? And I think that's what the Netflix movie was for me, because we are playing a Netflix movie in our head all the time, right? And our brain is the greatest used car salesman trying to sell us a bill of goods because it wants to keep us safe. What you hear in that? I mean, what came up for you with that? Because I think that it's that Netflix movie in our head is so real that we all take the bait, especially when we're trying to, as a human being, trying to help our clients see more of their presence and less of the Netflix movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I agree with you. It's not so much a distraction as it is a break in their energetic set point that they're at.
Yeah.
Because it's disrupting. Clearly, they're not maybe at a good place. They're being affected by a lot of what's happening around them. And they're in this kind of lower energetic set point. And you're just breaking that pattern for them a little bit. It is providing them with relief. And it's amazing to see the change in when energy changes, the change that happens in the person is incredible. And it's whatever you can sustain is what will rise up. It's where you give your attention, what will grow. So I love that story about your dad as well. I think that's really nice. But I was going to say something else now. What was it?
Take your time. I'll just hum the theme to Jeopardy now. Go ahead.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was now. It's gone from me. We'll come back to it.
Yes, we'll circle the wagons if it comes back. And that's the beauty of a podcast. It's like they don't see our. They're not going to see our faces on the podcast, so we can look like we're being, forgetful. I
have it.
There we go. Yeah. Good job.
I have it. I was just going to say, speaking about programming, going back to what you were saying there, we have so much fear, I think, in general, amongst all of us about the mind, about our own mind. So we fear it so much because we think it has so much power over us, don't we? And and that's where that's why you have anxiety about having anxiety, like all these type of things. And
we're scared of our thinking is what you're saying, right? It's like, we're scared of how our thoughts can make us feel if we don't have good ones. And what would that look like? And what would the outcome of that be? And things like that. But I think if we can look at it in the sense of, like you were saying, the mind is a program. And if it can be programmed one way, it most definitely can be programmed the opposite way as well. But it takes that affirming in of a new way. And it's something I'm even becoming more conscious of myself, like outside of my work, just day to day myself, of really catching myself moment to moment and noticing where I'm going with things in terms of my thought, and then asking myself, where is this coming from? And is that helping me? And where do I want to be instead with this? And reminding myself, it's just a program. It's just a program. It's just software running in real time that we think is real, and that's okay. And it's okay to sometimes get caught up and take the bait that the brain, because the brain loves us, it just wants to keep us safe. And it's running some really old programs that haven't really had that software update since like the Paleolithic era. If you think about it, it's used to caveman times. Stimulus response. Saber-tooth tiger. Okay, do I run or do I kill it? or do I get eaten by it? I need to protect my family. I need to go out and hunt. There's no like gray in between. It's very black. It was a very black and white existence. Survival, procreation, and repeat. The brain hasn't evolved since then. We can recreate those neural patterns. So what I just popped in my head, because what you said was brilliant. So what came up for me was, I'm really curious to hear how your experience in Italy, because you were there for a while, and we actually connected while you were still in Italy. Since we're talking about how our outside circumstances really have absolutely no influence on state of mind or quality of thinking, because our quality of thinking goes dark, gets distorted. The proverbial cognitive lens can get dirty innocently, and once we just like wipe it off and let the thinking settle. But since in a different culture outside of your host culture, your home culture, not your host, what kind of challenges and what kind of how was it helpful to be out of your comfort zone? Because you were still working and still working with clients, understanding that getting caught up in the different cultural dynamics of Italy really had nothing to do with getting caught up. That was a kind of a conditioned, packaged brain thing that was trying to like blame something or because there's always that cultural adjustment that goes on when we live in a new place, whether it's Italy or a different part of Ireland, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. I'm not going to mention any counties in particular, but
yes, we'll save that for off the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
An interesting element of this was actually for me coming to terms with how much emphasis or power I was giving to being in Italy and what that would mean for me and how would that change me. And was I looking at it as a kind of this is better than where I'm coming from? You know what I mean? Because in a way, that is letting the external influence me. And it's kind of going against what we're saying about, it really is your internal state and your perception and, your your internal dialogue and what you're making out of your outside environment.
Yeah. So the brain's creating meaning. Like you could look at this and think it's delicious. And another guest was like, ew, it's green juice, right? Our brain creates meaning out of everything, but whatever our experience is what really matters. But the meaning part doesn't mean anything. It's the feeling and that feel-good feeling we get from exploration and being in new places.
Definitely. And there was a bit of a build-up for me to get to Italy. And the longer you're waiting for something to happen, and then you look at it as kind of a manifestation, like a goal of yours, it does kind of put itself up on that pedestal a little bit. And I had to really keep myself in check because, for me, I'm such, obviously because I coach on it, but I really do live by embodiment practice. So I really had to kind of come home to myself and look at my energy and look at, okay, what is the illusion of the story that I'm creating about me being in this place versus me being in this place? And is it playing into my ego in any way? How is it affecting, different things like that. But another part of it was, and actually I haven't really shared this with too many people, but I'm going to go for it because we're in this open,
the fearless now.
Space.
The fearless now. Why do you think I know it's such a plan? I know it's so like cliche, but ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the fearless now. Go ahead.
Sam, this is how you know you're an excellent coach because you have me opening up over here.
But can you see that I'm waving my proverbial energetic wand right here?
Yeah, okay. I know it's working. It's good. Okay. It's good. So Wunderbar. my first day in Italy when I got there, just to say again to your listeners, I went to Italy alone. I didn't really know anyone. I was going to a place I'd been there before for one day, but I just decided to move there. I got my apartment online, had never seen it before, couldn't speak the language. And like, as I was saying, there was no one there to meet me. So day one, recipe for success. But day one, I got there And I had the biggest emotional breakdown when I got there.
Nice.
I felt,
No. Yeah. You know what?
No, I get you. I felt completely, devastatingly alone. And I remember ringing my family in tears, like hysterics, in tears, being like, I can't do this. I've made a mistake. I've dreamed
but you just arrived there and jet lag. I mean, is there jet lag from? Not really. You can't claim jet lag.
Really, but I did have a little bit of travel because I had to go from Cork to Dublin, then Dublin to Rome to Florence.
Whoa.
And it was hot when I got there, and I had like my big suitcase, and I was trying to like wheel it over the cobblestones all the way to the city of Florence, and but I think for the first time in a while, because as well I come from a lockdown where I was with my family, during lockdown, where I just felt completely alone. And I remember feeling just absolutely crushed by this idea of like a broken dream almost, and a sense of personal failure, that I wasn't going to be strong enough to go through with this, with everything that I wanted to. And I let it all out, let all the tears out and all the emotions, and spoke about it. And I remember I went out that night for dinner, and I was sitting alone at a table, just eating my pizza, as one does.
Of course.
And yeah,
gelato.
of course. And And I came across this video on YouTube, I think, about how basically the video was about how we're actually all alone. And it sounds very depressing, but it made me feel totally at peace after watching this video, because it was talking about how even if you're married, living in a house, you have 5 kids, 3 dogs, 2 horses, the works.
How perfect.
Ideal.
Is there a picket fence? And there's a picket fence. And the dog is like a golden retriever, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Or you're single, living on your own, no roommates, right. Whatever.
You pray love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You pray love.
Right.
Whatever your situation is, the truth is we are all completely alone. And we are alone in the sense that we are all living only in our own minds, in our own bodies, in our own energy. And at the end of the day, what other people are doing around us, or what they're saying to us, whatever, that's always being filtered through our systems.
It's hyperbole.
Yeah.
It's some of the greatest writers and poets are Irish. Keats. I can go on and on and on. So you come from a long lineage and of writers who, and I'm writing. I just finished a book, and we'll talk about that on your podcast when you have one called Fearless. But I love what you just said there, because, but I'm going to disagree with you too. Whatever that YouTube video was, that's also allegory and hyperbole, right? Whoever was created that.
Yeah.
If we remember, and you're going to love this, because this is, embodiment coaching is exactly what I do. It's just semantics, right?
Yeah. Of course,
I think real coaches share their story from their own experience. Like, I don't like just, when I'm working with clients, I don't like pretend like I'm a coach.
Perfect.
I got certification, I have a master's degree. Look at me. No.
Yeah.
I think when we see that we're not living, and you're going to love this because I love saying this, it sounds so smart. No, it's not really. We're not living in a world of our outside circumstances. We're living in a world of our thought, I can't even say it right. We're living in a world of thought and thinking. Like, when you say alone, I think the alone part is the thought and thinking piece. Hear this out and tell me what you think. We're not alone, because when we're present, we see what's around us. Even if we're sitting alone in our apartment, we see life moving through us. We are experiencing life, right? Life's not experiencing us so much. So when we live in a world when we know that we're making it all up, literally. Like if you look at it, if you didn't have thought, this gift of thought, to be that bridge between that world of the form and the formless, as my favorite coach, Michael Neal, I'll share with you after the podcast some brilliant books you would love for your coaching, because it's exactly what you share with your clients. Yeah. If you really see that, like, we are swimming in thought and thinking, we're not swimming in our outside circumstances. If you took thought out of the equation, or the noise was always silent or always on mute, even if you're the greatest meditator or you're a monk in Kathmandu, wherever, if you got into a car accident, there would be no trauma afterwards, right? PTSD.
Yeah.
Right. So if you went bankrupt, there would be no experience or story created around bankruptcy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Italy. You get to Italy, this gorgeous country, it's my favorite country in the whole world. I have a couple of them, but Ireland's on my top 5. I love Ireland. I love Italy's. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
You would have that singular, it'd be like a singularity, that singular experience of just taking in that moment when you get off that plane in the heat of midsummer Rome, and eating that slice of pizza and just enjoying the cheese and the tomato sauce, and then having the gelato afterwards, and just that sensory experience. There would be no, someone sitting on your shoulder saying, "Hey, you're alone and you're tired and it's hot," and
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually so glad that you corrected me on that you added that point, because that's exactly where I want to touch on next. No, but I love it. I love it because, the oneness of the universe, the oneness of the world is absolutely a thing, because all energy is connected. And that's what I took from what you just said about you being in that room and being connected to what's happening in the room and being present there, because when you do that, it's an energetic exchange, and now you are one and the same. But I think for me, the reason that it helped to hear that we are all completely alone is it removed that fear of needing something else to make me feel okay in the moment.
And that's very human to seek an outside stimuli to make us feel better. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's because we all do it. We all are creatures of habit. We all create, we have conditioning. We all have these neural connections that are strengthened by our habits. And we're never really taught. I mean, they should teach us this in school from a young age about how our outside experience has absolutely nothing to do with our state of mind or and that it's an inside out job, which that's okay too, that they don't teach us. And in some ways, it's actually better for us to learn it or to see it for ourselves as we get older. I'm very curious, very, very curious to hear how that unwrapped for you once, after you got there. And I lived in foreign countries myself, lived in London for a little while. My partner lived in Italy for a year. And we all get homesick because we start, old thinking comes through and we start to kind of, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
And very normal. What happened to you after, like, what shifted for you after you got there and started getting more settled? Like, what was it that you thought, in your thinking that changed for you?
To be honest with you, I can't even say to you that I had these conscious thoughts that actually changed everything for me. All I know is that I woke up the next morning and I was completely fine. And from that point on, I never felt homesick. Now, granted, I wasn't there for a year. I was just there for the summer. But I think in some way it was a bit of a release from an old pattern as well. That maybe the shock of just change in my environment, and having that initial human response, like what we're talking about. But I'm big on release. I'm big on, going through my emotions. I kind of have no choice, to be honest. I'm quite an emotional, sensitive kind of person. So if it's there, it's coming out. I can't do much about it. But I think for me, it was just having that awareness really, really helped that, the illusion of our thinking can really, really feel real and can really affect our emotions. And by doing that, it affects our vision. It affects the things that we see and kind of transmutes them and misshapes them and turns them into something that maybe they're not actually. And then I think after that, it was a matter of gracing myself with patience and not putting any expectations on myself to feel amazing about this place that I had been looking forward to coming to for so long. Just kind of starting from the ground up and being like, I'm just going to go out and enjoy my breakfast. And then I'm going to go through my day and I'm going to get my work done and connect with some amazing people and my clients and everything like that. So that for me was my experience, and I'm just grateful it went that way.
And that's amazing, because it's exactly what an amazing experience in a new country is all about. Like the smiles and the cries.
Yeah.
What it came for me when you said that is you were talking about the missshaping of our outside experience because of the narrative going on, of the ongoing screenwriter in our heads creating the greatest melodrama called thought.
Yeah.
Growing up in, I'm a little bit older than you, in the 80s and 90s. Cars would have these rearview mirrors, right? And for some reason, especially American cars, and you always have Vauxhalls, which is basically American, Opel, Vauxhall is GM, whatever. And on the rearview mirror would say objects in mirror don't appear as they seem, because it's, it's the mirror has been because the optics have been, they're convex or whatever, they're shaped at a certain angle. So
thwarted,
right, exactly. I didn't say that too well, but it's true. What I got from what you shared is when the quality of your thinking could have been crappy, distorted, cloudy, dirty, just mucked up, whether you're in Italy or in East Cork or wherever. You could have been anywhere. You could have been driving in your car and just been in a crappy mood. It wasn't Italy. It could have been that you were tired, which is understanding you traveled all day. Once we see that, and once we can point that out to our clients, and then once we see that in ourselves, when like the quality of our thinking is just crap, we know that that's not the right time to believe your thinking. That's not the right time to make decisions about people. Even if other people criticizing us for whatever we did or just being snotty. I mean, that's our growing edge as a species. The greatest sages of all time, we're talking, the top 10, your favorite sage is Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and then we can add in some modern ones, the Maharishi, the Dalai Lama,
The Rock,
whoever, your favorite footballer, since you're in Ireland, they got it. Like, it doesn't mean that they're better than us, but they just were graced with that, the power to see. I think really good coaches like yourself, and some of my favorite coaches, my partner is a kind of coach. She's a business coach and she's a graphic designer. She has the power to see too, like things that I don't see. I mean, I'm like, holy crap. Right. Yeah. I think that's what we're really pointing to. But again, Jesus lost the plot. He got caught up. Gandhi got pissed off, got angry. Like, it's funny. And I always share this in a lot of my episodes and I have to steal this from a great coach, because this kind of encapsulates what we're talking about. A guy named Aaron Turner, who's one of my favorite coaches. He's so funny. He's based out of London, little guy, great principles coach. He's like an embodiment coach. He teaches business training. He talks about, once we see we're not going to beat the system, like think that like, oh yeah, I got it taken care of, thought thinking, anxiety. I'm bigger than that, Baloney, malarkey. Like, we're never going to win. We're never going to, when we try to resist our thought and think, when we try to resist our anxiety or being overwhelmed in the moment, it actually amplifies it. When we try to resist that experience, that very, very human psychological experience that we all have, we tend to suffer more in that moment. And what he says, like, you're just bucking up against a system that, for whatever reason, is there not to harm you, but to be the ultimate diagnostic indicator when we're caught up innocently. I mean, rich people get caught up, healthy people get caught up, sick people get caught up. People, coaches and women in visiting in Italy get caught up.
Yeah.
So it's like when we see that, like, it's okay to go crazy every once in a while. It's kind of normal, not crazy in the pathology way, but in that we're going to have a breakdown.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, when we're telling ourselves that we have to go in and change every negative thought we have, you're kind of automatically disempowering yourself, because you're empowering your mind, because you're telling yourself it's really super important that I go in right now and fix my mind. And if you're doing that all the time, all day long, you're going to mentally exhaust yourself. You really are. And I love that as well, because I do agree. It's about not trying to, write the system in a sense. And for me, a big part of the embodiment coaching work that I do is coming back to the idea of your energy, like we were saying, this whole time, and not trying to go in and make sure every single one of your thoughts is completely perfect and idealized so that you can be the best version of yourself. It's not really about that. It's about your dominant vibration. It's about how you're moving and what you're doing, and the way you feel about yourself overall.
Yeah.
And yes, there's an interconnection. Thoughts lead to beliefs lead to energy, and every combination of that. But it's about where your focus is going and how is that focus making you feel overall. And I think as well, like what you were saying about, it's not Italy, in the sense that, let's use this metaphor. It's not about your external circumstances, your external factors making you feel a certain way, because if that was true, then the second I walked out of my apartment that day and went walking around Italy, I should have felt better because the city is so beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
It's you dropped into the present. It's like your thinking cleared. You had a Control-Delete, you had a software, your brain, I love what you said there, because you just summarize exactly what we all do, but we don't pay attention to it enough. Most of us are so busy in our life, so busy in our head. It's not like we're busy in our life. We're not like busy. We're caught up in our thinking a lot of the time when we're, especially, my sister has kids and a life and a husband and a mortgage. She's caught up in her head more than she's caught up in thinking about these other things. She's just caught up in her thinking. And then there are moments when she drops in, her thinking clears, and she sees her kids for the first time again, and she smiles. That she just looks at them. Before, she looked at them when my niece would have a hissy fit, and in the middle of the supermarket, and cause have a temper tantrum, and throws the applesauce plastic thing out of the cart, because she's a little kid.
Yeah.
And my sister gets angry at her, and then an hour later they're hugging, and kissing, and my niece is the cutest thing ever. Like, you were having that breakdown, and then like you saw Italy really for the first time, and then you'd have another breakdown, and then you saw Italy for the first time, and then some. I had a question for you, and that's really because about that exact example that you just shared with us about like mood and dropping in and out of our thinking. When you're in a low mood with your coaches, with your clients, like when you're just like, it has nothing to do with coaching because you love coaching and you love your work.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like for you? Like when you're just like, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, like we all do. And then you have like a 8:30 call in the morning or a 7:30 a.m. call or whatever it is. How does that look for you? Like, what is it that works for you? Or without doing affirmations, what do you see in that moment when you know you have to get on the phone or get on the Zoom or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the biggest things for me in terms of that type of situation is to actually remove, or try as best I can remove, any element of blaming myself for feeling a certain way. Because I think, again, it's kind of linked up to what we were saying earlier about, when you were a coach, you really do hold yourself accountable, and you do hold yourself up to such a high standard. And especially when you're coaching people on becoming essentially the greatest version of themselves, like the person they want to be. And then you wake up in some morning and you do not feel like that version of yourself.
Right.
I mean, that's okay though. And it's partly like catching yourself in the moment if you were starting to judge yourself because of that, and kind of have an acceptance about it, and not even straight away being like, oh, I have to not be this way because I have a client. I have to not be this way. It's kind of like, this is just one of those days. This is just, not every day is going to be waking up feeling on purpose, feeling totally fulfilled. But it's coming back to the idea of, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know the essence of who I am. And that energy is more dominant than anything else. It's more dominant than any bad days we will ever have or anything like that. So I think when you have that acceptance of, I'm just not feeling great today, that really diminishes any power that was going to have over you if you were really getting stuck on it and being like, oh, this is going to ruin everything I have planned for today. This is going to impact my sessions, that type of thing.
I know, and we all know. That's so well said. And that's a great thing to end on. But before we end, because you and I could talk all day, and there's so many nuggets in this conversation. But what came up for me, what you said there is, it's like what happened this morning with the technical the glitch, and then we, innocently had nothing.
My bad.
No, but I don't mean to put you on the spot, and then it's innocent and normal, but that's like a great example, right? If I woke up in a bad mood, or you woke up in a low mood, like we all do sometimes, for no reason, just a lot of heavy thought turbulence moving, just it's a thought turbulent morning or moment. Once we see that we have discernment, right? Like and you see that, like, you can just be yourself. And you could share with your client, what's so funny? I just woke up in the wrong side of the bed this morning. And I actually, I was actually really anxious to even speak to you right now for no reason. Isn't that silly? Like, you're a terrific client and I have no reason just to be, anxious right now, but I am, and I'm sitting with it with you. Or, I think that when we really just be ourselves without, trying to be that perfect coach or be that perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, there's my coach, who's British. I don't know what it is with the Irish and the British. They just like to talk to me like, and I mean that with no ego, but I love the UK and I love Ireland. It's like, I was telling my partner, like Italy and the UK and Ireland, those are places that we need to visit. And, of course I can live in Italy for the rest of my life, get a little villa in Tuscany. Sidebar. But, my coach, was saying to me, it's like, he was telling me he had stage fright, right? He was phobic of talking in front of people. It was an insecurity. Like I have a phobia of driving on the freeway sometimes, the highway, the motorway. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, we would say the motorway or the dual carriageway. Yeah.
Say that 5 times.
Dual, it doesn't matter. Motorway.
Motorway. You're going to quiz me for our next, what we call what in Ireland, what they call a highway, which makes no sense either. Highway. Okay. What my coach, his name is Angus. He's brilliant. Hey, Angus. He listens sometimes. He's a brilliant. Yeah, he's awesome. Him and his wife, Rohini, they're relationship coach, and they're kicking ass in Topanga in LA. Brilliant coaches. So Angus shared with me, he's like, I was deathly afraid of going in front of people. And then his coach said to him, the biggest gift is being yourself and admitting that you're scared, or admitting that you have stage fright. And that's what kind of took the hot air, the anxiety hot air out of his balloon. Just say, I'm human. Like, I'm scared. I'm anxious. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Like, you might get, if you're playing football and you're in the locker room with a bunch of blokes and they make fun of you for admitting that you're scared. So yeah. Well, yeah. Any final last words? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that no, you're fine. My coach said the exact same thing to me. We had a really similar conversation. Because for the longest time, and I still do have tendencies towards it, but I really did suffer from a fear of public speaking. Terrible.
You could have fooled us in the audience.
I know.
But see, exactly. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's probably not the best idea to drop it in right now after all that.
No, right. But it's, so listen, this is exactly what Angus was sharing with me. So tell me about, so you had so you suffered from so-called stage fright. And my coach was just very much like, okay, but what is wrong with messing up? Even after identifying that is your fear around the public speaking, say it's like looking stupid or messing up or not coming across as, confident, intelligent, whatever it is. And then she just kept asking me, but maybe it's okay not to come across as whatever you want. People like when you're human. Like when we fake we fake being a superwoman or a superman, whatever.
Yeah.
That's people don't like that because that's not human. Like you can go on stage and say, tell a self-deprecating joke about us, or just admit that you're scared. People resonate with that more, I think. And once our clients kind of see that it's okay to be scared and admit to being scared, even if it's a work thing. We think that even in when we're getting paid to do something, right?
Yeah.
For a living, whatever it is, that it's not okay to be human and say, I'm scared. And share that with, especially if you're doing a presentation, and say, I have a lot of anxiety, but don't worry, I'm going to get to what you're paying me to speak about, or whatever it is. There's so much, it's just like a weight lifted off of us. But society, if we really listen to society in its most black and white kind of linear illustration of what we think society is, says the complete opposite. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to be myself. Yes, we all have knowledge, skills, and abilities and certain talents. But within that, we also can still be ourselves. The hot mess that we are, right?
The hot mess.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And agree. I'm so grateful that you appeared
out of nowhere.
And broadcasting live from East Cork. And it's really special for you to share, what you do, because especially coaches are the good. They're good and bad coaches, like in any profession. But in the good coaches, you can feel the coach's heart and sense of presence and humanness. And in the most perfectly imperfect embodiment of that, I said embodiment.
Yay.
I think that's what makes you a brilliant coach. But you'll forget again. You'll beat yourself and think you're terrible, and you did a bad session, and that's going to happen. But I think when we see that we're not the sum total of all that noise between our ears, and once we see below the noise, anything is possible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Sam. That's so kind of you and so nice. I mean, this has been a joy talking to you. I think you're obviously such a warm and kind-hearted person and everything, and very accommodating. Very, very accommodating. And I mean, like you said, there was some real treasure and gold nuggets in this whole conversation. And we could have gone on forever, but yeah.
It's best to see the album, the record on this note. Anything that you'd like to, I'd love for you to give the audience a plug where they can find you and how they can, book you for a discovery session, or, how does that work? And share with the audience how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So I suppose the easiest way to get a hold of me, if anyone is on Instagram, is to find me there. So my handle is @RachelFrancisCoach. And connect with me through the DMs. We can book a discovery call that way. Otherwise, you can email me at info@RachelFrancisCoaching.com.
Info@RachelFrancisCoaching.com. Ladies and gentlemen, info@RachelFrancisCoaching.com. Okay.
Yeah. And there's just one E in the Rachel, not AE. That's important as well.
Wait. There's one E. One E.
So, the way
AE?
No. Yeah. People spell it that way.
Rachel. RACHEL.
No, at the end.
What do you mean?
So it's
really?
Like, so the way I spell it is RACHEL.
Wait, say that slowly.
Sorry.
R?
Or
I'm American, so.
Yeah. RACHEL. And the other way of spelling it is RACHAEL.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that Gaelic? Is that a kind of Gaelic or?
No, I think it's I thought it was American, the AEL.
Well, if you're really cool and you're really like hipster, that's how they spell the Rachel. See, I'm just a Sam. It's SAM. There's no, I'm just Sam, Max. Sam.
That's fine. That's good though. Less mistakes to happen.
Yes. I'm a terrible speller. Thank God for spell check. Well, thank you, Rachel. Do you have a Facebook page too? Did you
I don't.
Okay, good.
I don't.
Instagram's better. I'm the same company. So go check out Rachel's website. Check out her. Did you say your website already? You did.
No, I didn't. I sent my email.
Do you have?
I don't have a website at the moment. No, it's down at the moment. I'm working on it.
Okay. You can reach her by Instagram. She's got a brilliant Instagram page. She is a fantastic coach, and she'll be your shepherd to get you back, to who and what you are, which is love and kindness and successful, and just have a better experience in the daily life. But anyways, thank you, Rachel. And we got to do this again for sure. And you need to start your own podcast. I think it's in the...
Yeah, well, I do. At the moment, I do have a podcast with 2 other girls, but it's interesting. It's mostly focused on spirituality and all things relating to that journey and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, I love the woo, the big woo. You speak in my language here. Yeah, I may not look like that. Like the big woo, but big woo is my language. So
yeah.
So what's the name of the pod? Is it already up and going?
Yeah, it's up and running. Yeah, it's called the Spiritual Roundtable Podcast. It's on Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the main platforms really. So yeah,
awesome.
It's there.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and have a great fall. And don't be a stranger. Let's do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again real soon. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.